Fear may be feeding your unbelief more than you realize. Have you ever noticed one of the most repeated commands in the entire Bible? Do not fear. Fear not. Be not afraid. Why does God repeat it so often? Now, I've heard it said, hey, it's told 365 times in the Bible, do not fear, one for each day. Yeah, it's a cute meme, but it's not true. But it is repeated a lot. And why? Is it because fear is simply an uncomfortable emotion? No. It's because fear competes with faith. Every day, one of them is leading your decisions. Either faith or fear. And on this video, we're going to discover why fear has become one of unbelief's greatest allies. Fear is more than an emotion. I want you to hear this. Fear itself now isn't sin. It is a human emotion, but it's so much more. The issue isn't whether fear knocks on your door. The issue is whether you invite it to become your God. Fear becomes dangerous when it becomes making your decisions. When fear chooses your future and your decisions, then faith is surrendered the steering wheel. Let's go into Numbers 13. 12 men entered into the promised land. All 12 saw the same land. All 12 saw the same giants. All 12 saw the same fruit. All 12 received the same promise from God. But 10 came back in fear. 2 returned in faith. What changed? Not the circumstances, the interpretation. The 10 spies looked at the giants, then looked at themselves, and said, we're like grasshoppers in their sight. But Joshua and Caleb looked at the giants, then looked at God, and said, the Lord is with us. Same facts, different focus. Fear magnified the obstacle, but faith magnified God. Let me say that again. Fear will magnify the obstacle where faith will magnify God. Listen to the language of fear. Listen to it. What if I fail? What if God doesn't come through? What if things get worse? What if I lose everything? What if I never recover? See, fear is a storyteller. It constantly creates a future that hasn't happened yet. And most of the things that we fear never actually occur. But we live as if they already have. Fear doesn't simply predict the future, it distorts it. Think about the disciples in the Sea of Galilee. A violent storm arose. Experienced fishermen, but they were panicking. Had to be a bad storm, right? They woke up Jesus. Rabbi, don't you care that we're perishing? Notice the order. Fear questioned God's care. Then Jesus calmed the storm. But before rebuking the wind, he addressed the disciples. Why are you so afraid? Where's your faith? Jesus wasn't minimizing the storm. It was real. The waves were real. The danger, it was real. But he wanted his disciples to learn something. Faith is never the absence of storms. It's the confidence in God's presence during that storm. See, every fear ultimately asks you one question. Can God really be trusted here? Fear says you're alone. Faith says I will never leave you. Fear says you're forgotten. Faith says I've engraved you on the palm of my hands. Fear says you'll never make it. But faith says my God shall supply all your needs. See, fear doesn't just attack your emotions, it attacks your theology. It quietly changes what you believe about God. That's why he says, fear not. So ask yourself honestly, what do you worry about the most? What keeps you awake at night? What future do you replay repeatedly in your mind? Now, let's ask another question. What does that reveal about where I'm struggling to trust God? See, fear will reveal where faith still needs to grow. Now, how do we overcome fear? Well, the answer isn't pretending that you're fearless. The answer is filling your heart with someone greater than your fear. Isaiah wrote, you will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you. See, peace doesn't come from perfect circumstances. Peace comes from fixing our attention on God. The more clearly we see his faithfulness, the less convincing fear becomes. Fear and faith both ask you to believe something about tomorrow. Fear believes tomorrow without God. Faith believes tomorrow with him. Every day you choose which voice you'll follow. Sometimes it's every hour you choose. And as we continue this journey, remember, God never tells us to not fear without first reminding us of who he is. His presence is always greater than your fear. His promises are stronger than your anxiety. And his faithfulness is more certain than your circumstances. Now on the next video, hit that subscribe button by the way, but on the next video we're going to examine another hidden enemy of faith that often disguises itself as wisdom. Okay? And that's religious tradition. We'll discover how sincere people can know scripture and still miss what God is doing. So, if this message encouraged you, share it with someone who's battling fear today. Hit the subscribe, hit the share, and then answer this question in the comments. What promise of God? What promise of God are you choosing to believe over your fears this week? God bless you, and I'll see you on the next video.